Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for attending AppBuddy's first ever webinar on working within the channel space itself. I wanted to, again, thank you all, but also get into some of the things that we're working on that we'll be discussing today. Evan, please. So a little bit of housekeeping here. We are recording this webinar, so you'll be able to find it on YouTube, and we will be emailing everybody that registered for this today as well. We're going to cover many things throughout this webinar, and we will give time for Q&A at the end. If there are any issues, as you can see, sign off and just get back on. Zoom offers the option for phone in or for talking through your computer. Now, on to some of the things about who AppBuddy is. AppBuddy, as you can see, was founded in 2009. We historically have worked within companies everywhere from the SMB clear up to mid-market and enterprise companies. We have sold to them and worked with them internally with a lot of their sales, marketing, and basically every user that you'll find within any Salesforce CRM users. We are headquartered out of Millbury, California. And as we mentioned here, and we're very proud of, is that we are the market leader and the first of our product in this market. You can find us on the Salesforce App Exchange. We are a 5-star rated company. So as for today, again, my name is Sean Lardo. I'm the moderator for this. I am the Director of Partner Solutions here at AppBuddy. I have with me our VP of Customer Success, Evan McCossie. He will be doing the presenting of the demo.
Cool.
So we went through, we talked about who AppBuddy is, but again, what we're going to discuss today is our intro into the cloud for PRM. We are going to do a demo. We will summarize a few points and then offer time for Q&A. So a little bit about what you're going to see here is how we give the ability to ease of doing business from vendor to reseller. How we are going to be able to, how the work within the vendors and resellers CRMs, also within PRM and portals. We're actually going to have a heavy emphasis today on Salesforce users at the vendor level and Salesforce community users for the partner level. There's a lot of background noise. If we can mute that, please. Please mute that. Now, we are also going to show you how we can eliminate redundant data entry and how easy it is to configure our grids within your instance too. It does not require a ton of development, any development really, and it is easy as a user to use and to set up and create. What you're going to see here also is we're going to be addressing some of the major points of the bi-directional sync, from leads and contacts to opportunities where you see bi-directional, pipeline management, activities being able to be done within the system, and also campaign tracking of all sorts with closed loop campaign management, MDF management, etc. Personas that we serve. Again, any user that's within Salesforce, between channel marketing and sales and management operations, and within the resellers themselves, we're able to extend AppBuddy's primary features to the vendor, clear down to resellers, and you'll see that within this demo also. Yes, I do think noise is coming from your end, Evan. Thank you, sir. Now, some things, as I mentioned, that we're going to discuss. We want to focus on some heavy use cases that we see being some of the core issues we find today within the channel space. AppBuddy has already addressed this with our existing clients for their internal employees. But now moving over to the channel is the same. You see the same needs. Pipeline management is always an issue. Understanding where you're forecasting, understanding what deals are on the table, and that is a challenge for many different reasons. One of the big ones, though, as we know today, is technology. Having the ability to actually enter information very simply. Deal registration and lead management happen, but they're not happening as frequently as they should or timely as they should. So you're going to see a lot about deal registration in this. Portal productivity and adoption. Okay, anybody that's worked within the channel space long enough knows that adoption has always been a struggle for many different people, and some companies have had a very, very successful job in getting adoption up, we know that bringing them to one place to work and giving them the ability to do it are one or two different things, and sometimes we don't get that success you want. So we're going to talk about how AppBuddy helps with portal production and adoption. And then we're also going to talk about partner recruitment and account management as well. You're going to see the ease of use of us, again, at all the persona levels that we mentioned. So now I'm going to hand this over to Evan so he can start to show actually the power behind what AppBuddy is.
All right, thanks, Sean. And can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, so let me flip over here and you can see my screen. Cool.
Yep, we are good to go. Yes, sir.
Cool, thanks, Sean. So like you mentioned, we really want to focus on two worlds here as we're looking at the demo and the value that AppBuddy provides, both on the reseller end and activities that are going to be very targeted towards them. And then, of course, on the vendor end, so the input and the people that are actually going to be doing the large-scale management across multiple partners and resellers. So we have a couple of different lenses that we can look at this in that we'll show today for the demo. So the first persona we're going to focus on is really the day in the life of the reseller. And in the scenario that we're going through here, I'm a reseller that I'm going into a partner portal that the vendor has set up for me. And the use cases for the portal are multifold. I might go here to get my marketing materials, some information that gets published that the vendor is giving me to help me sell their product. But also, ultimately, I want this to be the place, the hub, where I get my data from the resellers. So I want to make it very easy as a vendor for my reseller to go in here, register their deals, and especially things that need collaboration between my internal team at the vendor and the reseller that's going into the portal. I want to make it very easy for them to get to that data and make it very efficient to get in my system. So starting the journey in a portal, the first place we see a lot of value in AppBuddy Cloud is what we'll show here in the Partner Reseller Workspace. So I'm a reseller, I'm going into my vendor portal, and there's different things that I'm encouraged to do when I'm in the portal. And we're gonna focus on two of them today, one around leads and then one around when they convert later in the process to a deal. So starting with the lead perspective, there's a couple of different ways we can configure this use case along the same object towards your business process. So let's say here, I'm starting with a view of leads that have been passed to me from the partner. So I'm a good reseller, I've done my due diligence and I work closely with this vendor and they reward me by giving me some leads. So normally in the portal, I would go and maybe see this in a normal Salesforce lead list view or any list view in the portal. And I have to work with those leads one at a time. And if I'm working with any sort of volume, if there's any sort of complexity in the process, it's going to lead to that situation where there's a lot of clicks and churn. So what we can do here using AppBuddy Cloud is show my leads in a grid. So these are leads that have been passed to me. I can work these and do all the things that I need to do to manage the rating, whatever I need to do in the follow-up. But using AppBuddy Cloud's powerful architecture, I can also work with the related objects. So if I need to do more complex processes like log a task and do all those things that's actually going to give that data a lot of color and perspective that the vendor can see, I can do that very easily all in one place without needing to click into multiple places in the portal. The other nice thing we can do here is as these leads are passed to me, we can manage different fields on the lead. So if I have a process where I need to accept certain leads coming from the vendor, I can do that in one place, both individually or in bulk, and work with a large list of leads very easily, all in a single pane of glass. So that's one way that we might be able to work with leads in a portal. Another way is the reverse direction. So maybe in the portal, I'm registering leads, and I need to go in here and register leads that I'm using where I'm going to be selling the vendor's product. So in that case too, I could use the same portal experience with a slight bit of configuration change to say, okay, now show me a list of all the leads I'd registered in the system. And if I need to go deal reg 10 leads, instead of doing that one page at a time and going through a long form one by one, I can very easily register multiple leads at the same time that are going to get pushed into the vendor system. So either way that we have the lead process selected, we're going to be able to make that easier for the resellers to deal with that data. And of course, everything here, the required fields we need, everything we need to actually get that correct data into the system, it's going to be available for me on the grid in an easy to use interface that people understand because it's very similar to a spreadsheet experience, but housed and connect to the power that you're putting forth in your vendor portal. So that's one side of the coin where we can, do that initial entry and that we're just starting to work with this prospect. And as they graduate through the life cycle, a lead's going to get converted to an opportunity, and we'll move to our second use case, which is around pipeline management. So maybe the way that this works in the portal is I've registered my leads, that gets taken over by a vendor sales team that's going to work my deal and through conversion, but I want to keep track of those deals and see when I'm going to get paid on it and how they're doing on the rep side. So this is a view of my registered leads that have come in, been converted through opportunities, and especially for use cases we've seen the most value on, when I have any sort of collaborative process. We have a large telephone company that's using AppBuddy Cloud in a portal, and they require people to log products against their opportunities in the system. We can again use that multi-object view and multi-object architecture to bring me all the relevant information to this deal so I can see when the quote's been put out, what products have been put to it, and those collaborative tasks. Maybe here as a partner, I need to come in here and track my own close date so we can compare it to what the rep is saying to what I'm saying. And maybe I actually log, next steps in the system. So I actually use this as a mechanism to communicate with that core AE on the vendor team. Met with partner, things are looking good for the deal. I can use this as a very easy interface to make those changes and put that information in the core data to make that seamless communication between me as the reseller and the core AE on the vendor side who's ultimately I'm going to be collaborating on the deal with. And this can be field level on the opportunities, and you'll notice that only certain fields here are editable based on my permissions as a reseller. I'm not going to go in here and change the stage that the core AE is managing. But I might have a subset of fields which I'm using to communicate that information. Or I might actually be logging tasks against this opportunity in the system so that the core AE can see activity that I'm doing and activity that they're doing. And when there's something with communication with the client that we need to coordinate, all that information is in a central place, and I'm easily able to work with that from a single pane of glass. So this is kind of the beginning of our focus where we really want to make that communication seamless and easy from the reseller side, and we're putting this in the place that the vendor wants to drive the behavior in the reseller. In that portal where we already want them to go and get the information, this is just a way we're going to enhance and accentuate that portal experience by making the data entry very, very easy and improving the accuracy of the data all the way through, but also accounting for the complexities and idiosyncrasies of the process when we need to do things, especially like dig into related objects. So that's how we're going to add value on the reseller side. And let's look at the flip side of that on what the vendor is going to see with the same data. So this partner community here is hooked up to my CRM instance, and now switching perspectives and personas to the vendor side, we're going to be able to actually see the same information and leverage AppBuddy Cloud in a very strong way from right within our CRM system. So here I'm in the CRM, and now I'm in the vendor. So I'm working with multiple resellers, and this is where we get into personas, especially the people digging into channel. So channel marketing, channel managers, channel sales. I'm seeing all this data that's coming in, and I'm getting interface and input from the resellers into the portal. But now I'm working with it within my core CRM system. So in this case, in the vendor tab, I've put together a vendor workspace for the different channel roles that are going to touch this same data throughout the life cycle. So starting with leads. So let's say I have a bunch of leads in my CRM, and I'm the channel manager responsible for distributing those leads to the different partners. So we just went to a trade show and we got a lot of leads. I want to distribute these out to some of the resellers that I'm working with that I have a close relationship with. So I have 2 hot leads right on top. We've done some initial qualification with them, and now we want to give them out to a partner to work. So I see the leads, I see any additional information, so any tasks or campaigns. I can configure this to show me whatever contextual information around the leads I want. But I can right here very easily go through and maybe assign this to a VAR partner that I work with, and I can change the status of pass to partner. And when I save on here, this is going to now take my unassigned leads, and it's going to take that off the grid, send it to my partner, and they can go start working the deal. So I can use this as my first level of distribution to assign leads out to the different partners. And using AppBuddy Cloud's powerful filtering capabilities, we can also slice and dice this view any way we want and make it very easy for us to see, of the leads that have been distributed, which ones have been accepted by partners, which one have been rejected. And I can very easily move these leads through the various parts of the process and the various people who need to touch them between myself at the vendor level and the partners that I'm distributing these leads to. So it's really using that same power and flexibility that we see in AppBuddy Cloud on the reseller side, but now just opening up that experience to the vendors that are working with that data within their own CRM. So moving on to the next use case, we also have an opportunity management use case on the vendor side. So now let's say I'm a channel sales rep and I have multiple deals that I'm working. Some may be coming from my own pipeline, some which have been graduated up from registered deals that I'm working on with a partner, and I'm bundling them into deals that I'm tracking. So this view is going to now show me all the opportunities that are assigned to me in my pipeline, filtered to show maybe this quarter or this month or whatever lens is useful for me to see this information in. And again, we can configure things like conditional formatting to call out things that I need to take action on as that rep. So I have a close date on this opportunity here. It's highlighted in red because it's in the past. I can now very easily say, oops, actually this got pushed out. It's going to move to July. I can make that change and have my data and reporting now up to date and reflecting correctly when my boss pulls it up in the pipeline meeting or they pull a report. Same thing if I'm moving things in the different stage because, okay, actually we got a price quote out this week and I'm going to move this to commit. I can very easily manage things like the forecast category and the amount and those transactional changes that we really want to see in order for our data to be correct and me to be forecasting my pipeline accuracy. And similarly, if we have parts of our process, a lot of our customers are working with some sort of, what's my next step that they want to keep up to date, daily or weekly for the pipeline reviews. We can call out places where that's missing and then met with customer last week and very easily keep that up to date. So my data's clean, my pipeline's up to date, my boss is happy, and I'm accurately projecting a number that we think can close this quarter. Next steps. So AppBuddy Cloud is going to make this all very easy and configurable. And again, we can very easily adapt this to any process. So we're using it, showing some standard fields here, but any kind of thing that you have in your process, whether it's a lot of custom fields or there's dependencies or there's validation to go through each part of the process, that's going to be very easily to accommodate in our process because we have the ability to work multi-object. So a lot of companies, when they're working with a pipeline, there's different requirements. Like when I get to stage 3, I need to log a product or I need to log a competitor. And there's dependencies in the data that I'm going to need to see. And if I don't have them all in one view, it's going to require me going into each of these opportunities individually to see that. So not only can we handle these core updates like the stage, amount, next steps to win, but also I have access to everything related to this opportunity that I can see in one place. So again, if I have collaboration, here we have a custom partner activities object as part of the process here. So I can see that my partner that I'm working with is putting their half of the quote in this week, and that's going to align with my close date. That's fantastic. If I need to see other contacts, these are actually contacts that are related to the account that this deal is associated to. So if I need to see a cross-dimensional view and see information that's going to give me good context that's maybe not directly related to what I'm looking at, this is going to be a very easy way to expose that. And if I have complexities in my process, like I need to log a product at stage 3 or whatever your validation is, it's very easy for us to accommodate that on the grid, give you all the fields that you need to edit and create and do your job while still respecting all the business rules that have been created for you to enforce the correct process. All right. So moving on to the next use case, we can see just some different dimensions using these same objects for different process. So we started with leads and opportunities, and that's a really collaborative, partner-driven process where the vendor and partner are going to be doing a lot of collaboration. But we can also use this just for internal use cases. So maybe I'm a channel manager, I'm tracking leads in the system of partners that I'm trying to recruit. and sign up into my partner program and enter into an MOU with. So this is using the same object, leads, but using it in a slightly different way because I'm actually tracking down different people that I want to recruit in my partner program. And just like we saw before, using the power of AppBuddy Cloud, we can build these various relationships and see this contextual information so I can update things like my lead status, but also do things like log tasks, see the various campaigns that this lead has been a part of, and actually track that activity across all the different objects that this touches in my process. So I can use this not only for the lead collaboration with the partner, but just for my own internal lead tracking for tracking down the leads that I want to work with as part of my partner program and channel program. And similarly, as we follow that through the life cycle, I'm maybe at a point where I've recruited and I've talked to a couple of leads within a company, and now I want to start tracking that in the account. We can follow that same journey into this partner recruitment accounts tab. So these are now leads that have met enough criteria where I've converted them, but now I see the actual account level. So if I'm trying to work with Big Data Corp and as my next big potential partner, I can not only see the 7 contacts that I've converted from that initial partner recruitment campaign, but also see now opportunities that we're tracking to work with this partner and close business and close that initial agreement that we want to enter in with them. In addition to any other related object that you might have as your process, tasks, custom objects, quotes, whatever that might be. So no matter where you are in the life cycle and what kinds of processes you're looking at, this gives you a very easy configurable way to, within your vendor CRM instance, see this information and manage that. And then once those accounts graduate and we're actually doing business with them, we can use that same multi-object dimension. So here's 3 partners that I've now signed agreements with. They're giving me recurring business every year. I might be tracking a target against each of these accounts. And I have pipeline that's building up to a total in each of these accounts. And I want to see I'm tracking the target. I get a very high level view of all the partners in my program that I'm working with as the channel manager. And I get that dimensionality into what are the opportunities that are going and making up that business relationship, who are the contacts I'm working with at those various accounts, and what activity am I tracking or need to be tracking in order to make that relationship successful for me. So Sean, I'll pause right here. Are there any questions that we want to address in the chat, or do we want to flash the marketing use case real quick?
So yeah, we actually did have a question here. Bear with me. Question was, well, actually it was more in relationship to the to where we would be able to integrate within. The question was, can partners do their own CRM in this? Can they use their own CRM with this, or is it just in a portal?
Absolutely.
So I can start with that if you like. The answer to the question is, the answer to the question for everybody is that we give the ability to integrate between both. If you're a reseller, or rather, let's go back. If you're a vendor and you're providing a portal, and you're doing Salesforce communities, for instance, and you're trying to push the adoption of Salesforce communities and have your partners work directly out of there to do everything, we can, as you've already seen there, we can do that integration there. However, let's say that you don't offer a portal today, and you have partners that would rather work at their CRM, which is where they stay, live, and breathe. We can do the integration into their CRM from your center CRM also. So we can't connect both. And also the other question is, with that, is how customizable is all of this, whether it be portal or CRM or whatnot. And I'll leave that one to you.
Yeah. So the good news is, and when we hear the word customizable, we always chuckle a little bit, because you think about something, especially where you have dynamic business processes and a lot of rules, and traditionally something like that would require a lot of customization to really fulfill and tailor to a specific company's process. The great news about the grids, and I'm logged in here as an admin and I have access to this, and I'll flash this really quick because it's a good transition. All the configuration within AppBuddy is very easy to do, and it's by and large point and click configuration. So I came here from a grid that I've configured, track my partner account management process, and it has information from accounts, contacts, opportunities, and tasks that's coming from my vendor CRM that I'm working with. That's all really configurable, and building the grids is, really just selecting the objects and fields and filters that you want and to expose that to the users. So here I came in, I built a grid off account. I see all the fields on account. If I wanted to add, account number and account phone to my view here, that's just 2 clicks and it's there and it's going to show up. And similarly, if I want to add any of those relationships, so let's say I'm working with cases, that's part of my process, or I have a custom object like entity subscription. It's very easy for me to just drill into those objects and add the fields that I'm interested in that are going to be part of the process. So you see here, as I add entity subscription, that's going to get added to my grid. So really from an administration standpoint and configuration, this is something that sales operations, we call them grid admins, someone who's in charge of the process that's building this out. They're going to be building this with point and click configuration around the fields that are of interest to the process. And it's going to respect all the business rules in your CRM, of course, but you can also do things like tailor the different fields, maybe for a process in the portal. A reseller can edit a field, but you don't want them editing it from there. And you want to create a very controlled experience where they're only editing certain things that they have access to for a specific process. They can actually tailor that experience and add on additional permissions on the grid to, again, make that very seamless and flexible and really just drive the behavior that they want, whether it's, the reseller behavior that they want or the internal channel team's behavior that they want, but make that very easy for them to do through configuration. Cool. I'll show one more example here while we're on the vendor side, just because we mentioned it at the beginning. We've spent a lot of the focus on really lead, account, and opportunity management because it's such a core business process for so many people that are using CRM and doing collaborative selling. But we also wanted to show an example of a marketing use case as well. So if I flip over to the Marketing Development Funds tab, switching perspectives a little bit to, let's say, a channel marketing user, someone who's responsible for building campaigns and seeing the activity of those campaigns. I set up a trade show as maybe my campaign. How many outreaches did I get here? How much of that led to converted business that I'm interested in? And how many opportunities got generated and closed based on that activity? So you'll see here using a grid with a slightly different focus here, now pointed at the campaign object rather than lead, account, or opportunity, but using that same powerful multi-object relationship to give me dimensionality into what's happening in that campaign. So I can see here on the top level on the campaign, I can see things like a high-level status. So I did a channel partner expo, it's in process. There were certain things that I'm tracking on the campaign level, like what was the budget, the cost, things like that. But you can see underneath the campaign, again, using that flexibility and multi-object perspective on the grid, I can see all the things that came out of that campaign. All right, we got 25 leads. A certain subset of those responded. We converted 2 of those leads into book demos. So these were campaign members' leads that got converted into contacts now on this account. So these are book demos, and out of that, we led to 5 open opportunities that we can track against now this campaign, and we can see the history of. So all that information is going to roll up to this top level campaign, but this actually gives you that level of granularity and level of detail to be able to actually drill in and see what happened, see where things went through, see where things got stalled, and really give you that 360-degree picture of the campaign. So this isn't just something that for sales and channel sales and the resellers that are working in a sales capacity, it's also something that we can easily apply to marketing. We see a lot of customers also in their portals, they'll use it to log cases. And same thing, we can make that process very easy, working cases and all the dimensionality that comes with that in the same way. So I want to really emphasize the configurability of the process because no matter what you have, anytime we're in this situation where there's information in a core CRM and there's maybe a collaborative platform like a portal where we're touching that from multiple audiences, a grid is going to be a really easy, convenient way to make that communication very seamless. All right, so flipping out of the demo and back into the slides. I want to talk a little bit about results. We talked a lot about the configuration, the day-to-day experience, but something that's very consistent along our customer base, and especially customers that are doing this PRM type of communication. Increased productivity is going to be number one, and we see this really especially clearly in the pipeline, and reducing the amount of friction and drag where reps, whether they're on the vendor rep side or they're on the reseller and they're doing collaboration across systems, they're spending a lot of time updating opportunities, and that's really the core of a lot of companies' business processes, because their whole forecast is build what's actually going to close and what's not. So just the time savings is often, a number one realization. It's not uncommon for us to see 80–90% time savings, especially when we have complex processes and they need to drill into multiple objects like quotes and products and tasks. Some companies tie that very explicitly to comp, and they require everyone to go through this process. And this is just something that we just see time and time again, the productivity being a really key driver. But also in the data quality. So this is actually a real world use case. We were working with a company. They had $8 million of unrecognized revenue in their forecast that was just coming from past due opportunities that weren't rolling up into the current quarter forecast. So, they went from March to April. Reps didn't have an easy way to update those close dates. So they were actually under recognizing their pipeline by a significant amount. And this is, again, just a very easy tool that you can use to incentivize the different people that have to work with this day to day to make that very easy and actually encourage that adoption of the system. And, both internally and on the portal side, adoption is this other layer that we hear time and time again. Companies, especially who have a lot of requirements, in their portal around deal registration, they actually want to capture not just 3 or 4 fields, but 15 to 20 fields and get a lot of detailed information. Or we work with a telecommunications company that requires users to log which products are getting sold in the deal registration bundles that they register. This is going to be very, very easy alternative to a multi-page form that a lot of companies are requiring in their systems and their portals, and making it a lot easier. Everyone's endeavoring to get to the system is the single source of truth for the data, and this is a tool that's going to enable that on so many levels. And like we talked about in the configuration, a lot of times it's you have the status quo, which is generally a lot of clicks and a lot of manual clicking around. You get fall off in the process. Or you can build something very tailored to your company's process, but generally there's a great cost associated with that, especially when you get in a lot of the complex functionality like pagination and multi-object and cross-filtering between different objects. It can cascade very quickly from something very simple to something very complicated. And we've seen customers, and this is coming from a real customer case study that we did, where they were spending on each tailored view they were doing on objects about $50,000 in development costs when they associated, especially the maintenance, the iterative releases. It's very easy for those things to spike. And this, again, just provides a very easy configurable option that's going to still respect those business rules, that you can still tailor to your process in very specific ways, but without having to reinvent the wheel and build everything from scratch. Sean, anything else to add to that?
No, I think overall, I think the most important thing to take away from this is that we are here to help you with the ease of doing business again. Just want to reiterate that, because as you can see, what we've seen across the board, what we've showed here so far is actual real results we've had with our existing customer base. And being able to extend this down to the partner level would be that much stronger for most vendors to have. And not only that, but even for the partners themselves, I think anybody that's been in this space long enough has heard them say that they're looking for that easy way to do things, work from one platform, and then also have the transparency when it comes down to the basic functions of opportunity management and deal registration, so they can actually keep involvement with the channel sales reps. But that would be the only thing I'd want to add to that. If we want to move on to actually a couple more questions that I know that people have here, so I'd like to be able to address them now.
Sure.
Question on security. What is the access level? What is, as far as security is concerned? They want to know GDPR compliance and whatnot.
Great question. So short answer is that the nice thing about what we're doing in AppBuddy Cloud is we're not actually taking any data out of your core system or doing any external processing. So unlike some other intermediary apps that, have their own database and do all that information, you have to manage a separate permission and, the data coming in and out. We're actually making updates to the API. So we're the middle layer, we're providing a UI for updating the data, but it's never actually leaving your core system. And it's because of that, and because we're making those updates through the API, it's going to respect all of the business rules that you've configured in the system. So security, we're not pulling anything out. And in terms of the business process and validation rules and things like that, we're going to actually get those from the core system, and all that's respected out of box. So think of us as an overlay on the UI that's going to do that, but we're not doing anything, we're not doing anything on the security level besides just updating the data in your core system.
All right, great. Actually, Greg had asked, do we see next steps for partner? I think we covered that. If not, Greg, let me know. I think we covered that. And if there's any questions, by all means, you can either throw it into the Q&A, or we can actually email you some other stuff if you want to talk later after this for clarification.
And to
next
add to
question.
that, sorry, just real quick to add to that, what the next steps, because each company has this configured a little bit differently, and it lives in a different place, and there's different formats for it. So however you have it configured in the source system, we can bring it through on the grid. So when we showed it, we had a next steps field. It was a long text that got exposed on the grid. Sometimes people track that in activities. Sometimes they track it in a different field type. So there's many ways to do it, but we can accommodate whatever way that you have that set up.
Perfect. Okay. So another question here. What industries do you work with? We're industry agnostic. Anywhere where you see Salesforce, a CRM, a PRM users, we have the ability to work within. Again, and even going back to the security piece too, if you're HIPAA compliant or GDPR compliant within what you're doing, again, we're piggybacking off of that too. So there's not really an industry that we can't focus on. Another question here. Mention increased adoption. What does that mean? So I'll start with that. The whole point of increased adoption is you see people that are part of a channel program or even internal sales teams. It really doesn't matter, that don't necessarily adopt the processes or procedures or the technology that's involved with the program. And the reason typically we find being the problem is there's too much noise around it. There's not an easy way of getting in and updating fields or doing the work necessary. So there's a lot of admin tasks. I think that's one of the reasons why we focused before on some of our ROIs that we've seen, is people being able to save time on just those things. So increased adoption really means, and simply put, is that if you have 100 people that should be using this or should be adopting your program or processes, you may only have 5 or 10. With using a product like ours, you should be able to increase that substantially, between 10 to 15, if not 30 or 40% in some cases, that are actually going to be engaged in using and following the structural process you put in place for them. One more question here, and I think that's all we have after that, is how is this licensed and what's included in the license? Well, how it's licensed is in this case, we license at the vendor level per user. We are a SaaS model, so it's per user per month. We start off with annual contracts. We can do multi-year contracts as well. And then we license on the partner side at the partner organization level, which will give you 1 license per partner organization, and we extend it to 5 users. And you can always increase the amount of users you have. The reason why we do it this way is to make sure that everybody in the vendor level has the ability to use the technology, like the channel sales, the channel marketing, the management and operations. They all have the ability to use it, whether it's channel managers or whatever it may be. And then at the level of the partner, we know that not necessarily everybody's going to need to be using this, but we want to make sure at the very least the people that are going to be registering opportunities or registering leads or doing pipeline management, that they have the ability to actually be in there doing this work that they need to. We don't want to limit anybody. as far as what's included in a license, with every license is unlimited. You can create as many grids as you want based off whatever use cases that you need. So again, the monthly rate for every user is $24 a month, and you can see that they have the ability to create as many things as they need to.
Yeah, and just to add on to that too, the license also comes with, on top of that, we have a very, very excellent, highly rated support team. And it's something that actually since the inception of our company, it's been a very big focus for us. So you can see, especially on the App Exchange, lots of reviews calling out our support specifically. So this isn't, oh yeah, you get it, and someone answers an email occasionally. We have very strong, very consultative support team, and especially as we're dealing with the idiosyncrasies of different business processes, and everyone does it a little bit differently. This is something that we provide a lot of support with, along with the license and the powerful functionality of the app.
Great. And we don't have any more questions here. So actually, with that being said, we'll get this wrapped up and give you guys some of your time, some of your day back. We will be emailing out this recording as soon as we have a chance to, and we'll do some follow-ups with anybody. If anybody has any questions, by all means, when we do follow up, give us as much information, as much feedback as you can. We're always looking to improve and make these webinars actually be very informative for you all to take it back and hopefully be able to do something with it. Otherwise, as of right now, thank you all for attending, and we look forward to seeing you on our next one. Take care.
Thanks, Sean.